Hi, hello, vanakkam, and welcome back to Little's Law YouTube channel. Today, in this video, we are going to discuss about one of the never-ending question, and one question which I get frequently from our subscribers and many of my friends. And in fact, I have this question when I was starting my career, and the question is, can we do performance testing for a desktop or a Windows application? So can we do? So what is the tools that we want to use for performance testing, and can we really do a performance testing for a Windows application? In general, the idea of software performance testing on desktop application is irrelevant because every desktop application is assumed to have only one user at a time. So if we are using a desktop application, it is mainly used by only one user. So because of this, the performance testing is limited to application profiling, which is the process of application analysis using third-party profiling tools, and the white box source code testing. So why are we doing these profiling and white box source code testing? So these are done to identify the algorithm which are inefficient, and they may have any overly large or any non-optimal structures and collections, and to test individual functions, and to know the execution time, and also to understand the associated resources cost. So these are the reasons we do the profiling and the white box source code testing. Okay, let's now move on to the main topic, which is, can we do performance testing for a desktop application? So take for an example that we have a desktop application which acts as a client for a web service, or it acts as a client for a database. So in such cases, we check the performance of the application itself by analyzing its code or by profiling it in the runtime. And this action makes sense to consider the load testing the back end by simulating a situation where hundreds or thousands of desktop applications are simultaneously accessing the backend server. And this type of testing provides answers to many questions like how many concurrent applications can be served while the response time is reasonably slow, and what are the boundaries of the current setup, which means what is the maximum amount of client application can be served, and how does the application scale in case if we want to do it, and if the load is overwhelming, does the backend successfully recover when the load gets back to normal? So in general, what is the approach of the desktop application performance testing? So the general approach should be same as web or mobile applications load testing, which is recording the scenario, performing correlation and parameterization, and running the test scenarios with one or two virtual users, and adding virtual users in case if we need to do a load test, and running the test, and finally analyzing the results. So we have many tools like load runner, we have neoload, we have jmeter. So which tool does help us in doing the desktop application? Can jmeter test a desktop application? So for that, we have to record the scenario, because jmeter comes with the HTTPS proxy server, which captures the request between the web browser or mobile device and the backend and convert them into HTTP request samplers. So what about the desktop application? So if the desktop application need to test the requests which uses HTTP or HTTPS protocols for communicating with the backend server, we should be able to record the request with jmeter and replay them with an increased number of virtual users. And the desktop applications which require network access support can use the proxy mode through their own setting or through any underlying operating system proxy configuration, which means we can use jmeter for load testing of almost any desktop application which communicates with the backend over HTTP. So how to do desktop performance testing? So as part of this desktop performance testing, we will see how to configure jmeter for recording. So the first step is configure jmeter for recording, and for that what we have to do is, let's open jmeter and so under jmeter click on templates, and under templates choose recording, and once you choose recording we'll get this default set of data which is getting populated. So now click on create, and we have to make few changes. We have to change the parameters. So the default server or the default port with the jmeter proxy server works is 8888, and that will be configured automatically. And the next thing is like the host to record. So since we are running the desktop application on the same machine, so we can either have 127.0.0.1 or we can have it as local host, and then the recording output file has to be recording.jmx, or either we can have it as XML, but it's better to have it as JMX, and the scheme to record. So if the application works as a HTTP, have it as HTTP, otherwise keep this recording as HTTPS, and click on create. So once you click on create, let me just open it again. Okay, so once you click on create, we will get this test plan. Under this we can see that the port is 8888 as I told you earlier, and then click on start and start the recording. And there is one more thing, which is we have to configure the desktop application which we were using, and for that we have to make few changes, which is we have to configure the application to use the jmeter proxy for accessing the intranet or the internet, and depending on the application we might have a separate proxy configuration dialog, or we have to use the respective underlying operating systems proxy settings. Say for example, if you are testing the application at your client network, so automatically it comes under the system's proxy settings. So once we capture the desktop application's network activity, we should be able to replay it according to our load test scenario, and we can show and we can see in fact how the backend behaves under the load. So many of us might have tried these steps, and even then we will not have any of the traffic has got recorded. So in that case, what we have to do, or do we have any options to troubleshoot? Yes, we have different options to troubleshoot. So let's see them one by one. The first thing is the proxy server part. So let's see how to add the proxy server, and for that we will have to go to the device manager. So let's open the device manager. This is the first way of configuring the proxy part. So under this device manager, go to action. So why are we doing this is because some application cannot route the traffic to a local proxy server, so we might need a loopback adapter, and this loopback adapter helps to record any data which gets communicated. So for that, let's go to the actions and click on add legacy hardware, go to next and search for and install hardware automatically and click on next. Again click next, and under this we will choose the hardware type which we want, and that has to be the network adapter. Choose the network adapter here and click on next, and let's wait for some time so that we get this one, and under this choose Microsoft, which is the manufacturer, and then the model has to be Microsoft KM test loopback adapter. Click on next, another next, and then click on finish. So this will install the Microsoft KM test loopback adapter, and this will definitely or will almost take you to the recording process. And what if this does not work? So we have another option where we all know that we have the Apache jmeter temporary root certificate. So we'll have to import this certificate into the certificate manager. So let's open the certificate manager, and under this certificate manager we have the trusted root certificate. So click on certificates and right click on the certificates. We can see that we have already have this jmeter root certificate. In case if you do not have this certificate, we can import it. Click on right click on import, click next, go to the location, choose the file and click. Let me try it once. So click on browse, and we can choose the file, the correct file, click open, click next, another next, and click on finish. So automatically we have got the input successful, and we could see the file has got installed in here. So this is the another way of fixing this proxy issue in case if we do not or we are not able to communicate to the backend server. And the last one is the network access, since majority of the desktop applications require network access which have their own proxy settings, or they might use the system's proxy settings. So if that is not the case, we can use the netsh command to set a proxy for the Windows Hypertext Transfer Protocol, and for that we have to try this. So let me open the command button, and under command we will have to try the netsh, and then setting up the proxy. So for that in HTTP, that is Windows HTTP, setting the proxy, and the local host will be 8888, and when we click enter, automatically the proxy settings will change to 8888, and then any communication that goes back and forth will be recorded in jmeter. So these are some of the ways we can try, or we can use these techniques to record the desktop application using jmeter for performance testing. I believe this video would have been very useful to you. So until we meet you in another interesting session, it's bye bye from Vasan Shanmugam and Little's Law.